Ed Howie is one of the most experienced business branding strategists in the world. He spent over 30 years helping to create, develop, and launch brand concepts for mainstream companies, leading to more than 350 million in incremental revenue. Ed's worked for and with brands like Chick-fil-A, H-E-B Grocery, United Airlines, 7-Eleven, KFC, and Kroger. In addition to helping other companies brand and market themselves, he's founded multiple seven-figure businesses, including his flagship business, BTY Creative, and his new business transformation enterprise, Serve Others Well. His latest podcast, The Wonder of WOOO, launched September 2024, and his first book, Lifelong Customers, The Secret to Scaling Profitably, will be released in early 2026. Ed and I spoke together at an event as this is being recorded, I guess about a month or so ago. And I heard all about WOOO, so I want him to talk about Wonder of WOOO. But Ed, really excited to continue our conversation and let other folks listen in.
No doubt, Mike. You always bring the energy and the brilliance. So let's get after it.
Let's do it. So my first question, as always, is from all of your experience, what do you believe is the one most important characteristic of a great leadership team?
You know, I would have answered this question differently probably 3 weeks ago, but I would say alignment is the most critical factor that must exist with your leadership team, because you assume your leadership team is made of multiple robust athletes and you're all in one shell, one boat, and you're all got a row. And if any single person doesn't understand the mission and is rowing in any way that's not in alignment with everyone else, you're creating inefficiency, you're creating havoc, you're damaging your velocity, and it just takes one oar not in sync. And man, how many times have we lived that with leadership teams? And typically, not always, typically it falls back to the leader. Not always, but more times that did me as a leader, did I as a leader, am I setting the alignment? And do we have consensus that that's where we're going?
Yeah, one of the things that I always say to drive that home to my leaders, and Ed, I agree with you 1,000%, is everybody on that senior leadership team not only needs to understand what the company vision is, they not only need to buy into what the company vision is, but they need to be evangelists of that vision. And if they're not evangelists, it doesn't make them a bad person, but it probably makes them a bad fit for your team. So I'm right with you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Totally agree. I love evangelists.
And tell me a little bit. So we're gonna talk about WOOO, and I'm gonna have you explain to everybody what WOOO is and how many O's are in WOOO.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna surprise people with I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. We're gonna surprise people with an extra O in WOOO. But,
That's right.
I'll let you tell us what that is. But before we do, I want to find out a little bit more about your journey. So you worked with a lot of these big brands. You founded, BTY Creative. Tell me what that journey looked like. How long were you kind of working for others, and when did you found BTY and why?
Great question, and really a foundational alignment story, if you will. So the shorter answer is that I started working for Chick-fil-A when I was in high school, 1982. As a 15-year-old, cooking fries at the mall restaurant in North Carolina, and I worked for Chick-fil-A for 7 years during high school and college. And then I had the opportunity to run a Chick-fil-A between my junior and senior year in college. They sent me out to Oklahoma City. So as a 20-year-old, I've got a $500,000 restaurant I'm running, 3 P&Ls under my belt before I go back for my senior year. I was recruited to join Chick-fil-A corporate as an operations consultant. They offered me marketing, but I kind of knew I had the marketing bent, and I believe that you can't outmarket a poor operation. And so I really wanted to be deep in operations, even though that's not actually my sweet spot. And so, or my power source. I'm very capable of it. That doesn't what brings me energy. But anyway, I'll get to that. So I was an operations consultant. My job was to help the organization and individuals sell more chicken and make more money. And we got to do it through a lot of different ways. This was Chick-fil-A, Mike, back in 89 to 99. So 175 to 200 restaurants to like 800, 900 restaurants, moving from mall to freestander. So aside from all the other things, I was in the middle of a purpose-driven organization that was singularly focused and aligned on scaling. Now, we didn't call it scaling in the 90s. We were growing, we were expanding. But so being a part of a machine that did it well and messed up some spots too, it was phenomenal MBA education. During that time, I did get my MBA. And that's when I really realized that I'm really more 6 months out versus day to day. So I left Chick-fil-A. I cold called a company called Atlanta Bread Company. I was their first director of marketing, was there 18 months before a company in San Antonio recruited me called HEB Grocery. HEB is now probably a $43 billion privately held grocery store chain. It's about 18 billion when I was there. Here in San Antonio, regarded as, I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but like Wegmans, HEB, Myers, they all three live in the same ecosystem, all independent. I was director of food service marketing there for 3 years. And what happened is over 3 years, my job became director of food service operations, even though the title was director of food service marketing. And if I'd wanted to live in operations, I could have had a long career at Chick-fil-A. Well, where this came to a head, and this is actually, I really appreciate you asking this question because I hope the long answer is worth it, is 2003. My wife and I are in the car driving back from North Carolina, where I'm from. We've been to the beach with my family. Kids are in the Suburban. We're getting on I-10 in Mobile. She looks at me, Mike, and says, "Are you happy?" And I was like, "With you?" I mean,
Dangerous question.
and she's a West Texan, and so she said, "I better know the answer to that question." She said, "Are you happy at HEB?" And I was silent for 5 minutes, and that is not my natural response to life, silence. But I knew, like, what does she know? What is she thinking? Why is she asking me this? And I knew whatever I said was going to be a watershed moment. Well, in that moment, I said, "No, I'm not." Second most important question she asked me was, "What are you going to do about it?" And I had my, like, probably my pinnacle of husband moments at the time. I was like, "Well, what do you want me to do about it? You know, kids, college, insurance, mortgage, you know, house, all this stuff. What do you want to do about it?" And then third important question, she said, "What makes you happy?" And my first thing I said was, "Well, I love helping people sell stuff." And she was like, "Really?" Because she knew that wasn't right. She's like, "It's like toilet paper?" It's just like, and I said, "No." And what I said, Mike, was, "I love helping people do all they can with what they have." Fourth important question, all within 15 minutes. Can we make money doing it? We had never talked about me running my own business. I hate ad agencies and the traditional billable hours model. I mean, all of a sudden in 10, 15 minutes, she opens this door to what makes you happy and can we make money doing it? Now here's the second God moment on top of all that. I literally had in my lap the book. I've got it. Ah, I gave it to somebody. It's not on my bookshelf. I had the book Now Discover Your Strengths by Marcus Buckingham.
That's all right. I've got it on my bookshelf right behind me.
Exactly. No one has my original. Oh, here it is. I knew it was here. Sorry. The book from 2003, right here.
Great book.
Look, it's yellow. Anyway, so Now Discover Your Strengths by Marcus Buckingham. So she opens my world, and then she's incredible. She let me simmer. She let me noodle. I'm reading this book, and it says, if you order your world around your strengths, not only are you happier, you're more effective. So I'd always hated the corporate world of, "Hey, Ed, you know, Mike is really good at financial analysis, and you both are going to be up for you're both going to be up for a promotion next. And if you want to beat Mike, you better get better at financial analysis because, you know, Mike's really good at that." Well, you know what? I'm not, I can do it, but that's not my superpower. Anyway, so read the book, get home the next day, do the survey, prints out my 5 core strengths. It's 10:30 at night. I've got to be at HEB like 6 a.m. next morning, 5 a.m. next morning to start the day. She reads the 5 things and says, "Well," reads my 5 strengths. She says, "Well, what are you going to do about it?" I said, "I think we're starting our own company." She said, "Can we make money doing it?" I was like, "I think so." I kid you not, 24 hours later, I had a 1-page business plan. The belief was that companies need access to a marketing executive, but not one full-time. This is before fractional CMOs, chief brand officers. In the top right corner, it said every element of your business either magnifies or detracts from your brand. And I believe there are companies that need access to not only strategy, but a map on how to put it in place. So I resigned 2 weeks later. My pro forma was I took my salary, divided it by a number that I figured I could convince people to hire me on a monthly retainer for consulting, and knew I had to land, I think it was 5 clients in 90 days, and I did. And that
Wow.
was 22 years ago.
Well, first, it sounds like you married well.
Yeah.
So Ed, going from your journey, I want to get into this idea of woo. Tell it, what is woo and why is that
Yeah,
important?
so the principle of WOO, the Wonder of WOO, is the acronym is for winning others over and over. Three O's, because it takes effort to win others over. It takes a whole lot more effort to win others over and over, and it has to be intentional. And the impetus of this, Mike, was that being in marketing, being in branding, being in customer service, all that stuff. I've owned a strategy firm, a brand firm for 22 years. We've never had a customer come to us and say, we need help taking care of our existing customers. What are they asking for? They need help with new customers. Everybody's talking about customer acquisition, and we're leaving literally profits on the table because we're not talking about retention. And retention actually is the true indicator of the value and the power of your brand. Because if you're constantly churning customers, then you are way more a commodity than a brand, because there's apparently not a trust and a dependability built that your product is actually selling itself to the person over and over again, versus always attracting new customers. They try it, they move on, they go. And so from a just stewardship standpoint, which is what's interesting, Mike, is the story I just shared. When I said I love helping people do all I can with what they have, that really is the principle of stewardship. And so my driving factor is I want people to do all they can with what they have. And after working with so many different incredible clients and brands, like, no one's talking about taking care of the customer right in front of you. They're all chasing strangers. And so I started studying the best brands. It's like, who is it that is like has that customer loyalty, has those incredible financial returns, has that incredible brand reputation? And there was a pattern. And it's very simple. WOO stands for three O's. Winning others over and over, but to win others over and over, you got to do three things. You have to be well orchestrated, which means you have to understand what your customer really wants. So orchestrated, you got to have a plan. You have to be well operationalized. You have to actually be able to do it. Okay? And then the most important one is well optimized. You have to have the processes and systems in place and the intention to do it over and over again. Because if you're not consistent with your brand experience, you're basically churning customers, you're confusing customers, you're breaking trust, you're destroying your reputation, you're destroying your equity. And
So I want to dive.
yeah.
Sorry, yeah, keep going. I interrupted
No, I
you.
was so what we realized is that you look at the best brands, the best performing companies, they do that. They insanely understand exactly what their customer wants and the nuances, not just like, I want hot fries. They understand how to cook those hot fries and have a process to increase the probability of hot fries versus cold fries. And then they have systems to ensure that it's over and over again. So if I come in today, tomorrow, and Thursday, then the fries are going to taste the same and be the same temperature and the right portion size and that kind of thing. I use fries just because that's my love language, but I think we all can relate.
Yeah, I probably had one too many of those. So I want to dive into each one of those. But before I do, I want to talk return on investment. So you brought up the good point. Everybody wants to get new clients. They don't talk about keeping the current clients. Let's talk about what the ROI is on that. And I know one of the things I've heard you say is, a current customer is worth way more than you think.
Yeah.
So how do we know, how should we be thinking about how much a lifelong customer is worth to us?
Okay, so let's flip the equation. And this is a great question because everyone says, like, am I spending too much money on marketing? Or how much should I spend on marketing? And that kind of thing. And so let's just be logical. It's not even talk dollars and cents. If every single customer that comes into and let's just use restaurants. Because whether you're B2B to B2C, we all understand restaurants. And we're all selling fries of some format. If every single customer that comes in my restaurant is a new customer and I don't have returning customers, why not? Don't you go back to the places you love? Don't you go back to the places you trust? Don't you go back to the places that mean more to you than just like hot fries? Frankly, you can get hot fries anywhere. You can get them at 7-Eleven if you hit the timing right. I don't want them, but you could get them there. And so everybody's talking about pay-per-click and let's get awareness out and that kind of stuff. But if you're constantly investing your marketing dollars in getting that new customer in the door and not taking care of the customer, logically, you're spending money wrong. Because if I pay to acquire you to my restaurant once and I woo you with everything about the experience, your fries are hot, the service is great, the restaurant's clean, you got a good value for your money, and man, we heard it was your daughter's birthday and we brought you a cupcake. You did something more than just give me what I paid for. Are you going to come back? Yes. And so I don't have to pay to acquire you. Now, I may have to pay to remind you to get in the habit. But think about some of the brands that you just buy on autopilot. Those are adored brands. Those are brands that have wooed you. They've won you over and over, and they haven't ignored you. And so one of the things that is one of the things that is illogical about it is that we spend all our energy chasing strangers versus loving the people that already love us. And I believe it's proven that the more you love the customers who love you, the more they're going to love you. And two things happen. One is they're going to continue to spend money with you and spend more money than the little errant person who's just coming in trying you for the first time. But then they're also more likely to tell people about you, which word of mouth is the greatest investment. The greatest, most profitable marketing you can do for your business is have people that love you tell other people. So if you don't have people that love you, you don't have word of mouth. So your cost per acquisition is logically more expensive. So, I mean, serve the one in front of you versus chasing the stranger. That's really the principle. You know, you got to bring new customers in. I'm not saying it, but if you don't have lifelong customers, you're really more of a commodity than brand.
And how do we measure that? And I know you and I have talked about this before the show, but
Yep.
how do we, is it just about some client retention or customer retention measure? Some people use a net promoter score.
Yeah.
I know you've got an interesting way of thinking about and measuring this. How do we measure? And again, I want to get into orchestrating, operationalizing and optimizing,
sure.
but how do you know if you're currently doing a good job?
Yeah, so some businesses have more analytics than others, but there's two ways. And anyone listening to this can do the first one like in your head, okay? So we believe the power of your brand and the power, the equity really of your brand and your ability to woo is measured on two things. One is the quality, the excellence of the transaction, okay? Let's stick with fries. I come in, I buy my meal, I get my hot fries. I feel like the money was good, it's clean. The functional of the transaction is like a 5. Like, think about some of your favorite restaurants. That it's just like, you're going to get it great every time, good value, that kind of stuff. That's a 5. One is, may get hot fries, maybe not, don't know what's going on. So you could score yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. So let's just choose a number 2. You're working on it, you're improving, but you're not quite there. But that's where people stop. They're like, oh, well, we're doing the hot fries. Well, I believe that the most adored brands don't just have a transaction, they impact your life beyond the transaction. That transaction has some kind of consequence beyond just the function of getting the fries. So I'll give you an example. Chick-fil-A, I know it. Okay. Chick-fil-A has some of the fastest drive-thrus in the world. I mean, they are excellent at drive-thrus. I love Chick-fil-A. I eat egg white grill because it's 27 grams of protein almost every morning for breakfast after working out. I mean, I've got my pattern. As good as they are, if they screw up, and I know that it usually takes me 4 minutes to get through the drive-thru, and all of a sudden it's 12, and I miss my Zoom call, all of a sudden, as great as that egg white grill is, their impact went to 1 because they messed with my life. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, so you can score yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. How are we on the transaction? Literally the promise of like the functional delivery. And then on impact, are we impacting our customer? Do we care about our customers beyond just like taking their money? So let's say you're a 2 and a 2. Well, we have a little matrix. It's like 4 squares, and you're either mundane, you're replaceable, you're committing self-sabotage, or you're magical. A magical brand is one that is distinct and unforgettable. And that's really what a woo brand is. So the question is, how distinct are you and how unforgettable are you? So that's one way to measure it. Okay, that's just like a self-judgment. You know what I mean? I would say with BTY, we've been retooling some operations, so we're probably in the 2.5, 2 3/4, and we're a B2B. We're a service company. But we've done some things to really kind of bring the magic and like remove some of the stuff that was extraneous from what we do for clients, that kind of thing. Any company can do that. Okay, so that's one thing. Second thing is, the way you measure the ultimate health of your business, I believe, is 4 factors. One is the distribution of frequency of customers and sales. So if you take a restaurant that's doing $2.5 million in business, how many of those customers are shopping with you more than once a month or twice a month, let's just say, okay? In the restaurant industry, twice a month would be considered a loyal customer. So you take all your transactions and you divide it by frequency of visit. Again, it has to be relative to your business, right? Car dealership, maybe it's every 4 years someone buys a car. So you could take your sales data and cut it into 3 buckets: lifelong customers, loyal customers, and we haven't figured out the right word, but customers, okay? You know, I mean, they're still valuable, but they're unpredictable. You don't know if they're coming back or not yet.
More
okay?
one time, or one time customers,
like one time a
maybe
year.
more than once, but it's not regular.
So we took one restaurant, took their sales data for 12 months, and put it into our magic formulator, and realized that 12% of the humans. Sorry, let me get this right. Yep, 12% of the actual humans. So so you could. With restaurants, you can track like credit cards, so you know how many people are actually unique users, right? And then you have total transactions, and then you have you have unique users, total transactions, and then you have the average of the transaction. So one restaurant, 12% of the humans that came in a year actually produced 25% of the visits because they were coming in over twice a month, so 24 times a year. They represented 42% of the total business. 12% of the customer population of the humans that had come into the door of the restaurant on a 12-month basis represented $1 million of the $2.5 million in business. So that's like, okay, wow, get more of those. We get more profitable customers because, they're coming in over and over again, right? So then that's one data. The second data is, well, what are your customers saying about you? So with all the incredible tools out there, we were able to pull all of their Google ratings, Yelp ratings, all that for the 12 months and track the pattern on a monthly basis of how many lifelong customers were coming in against their quality score, basically what customers said. And this restaurant, it showed that they were losing lifelong customers, like significantly, like had lost $100,000 of business just from their lifelong customers compared to where they were 12 months ago. And they were missing the mark. They were declining on value and experience. And it tracked literally month by month. You saw like 12% lifelong customers and 8% this kind of thing. And then you saw value going down. So what you do is you use our WOO formula. What do we need to reset to give the customer exactly what they want? Because we're not doing it now. And your lifelong customers are your greatest. They know more about your business than perhaps some of your employees, frankly, right? You tracking? So you say, okay, we're missing this. So what do we need to retool on what our customer really wants? Where are we missing the boat? How do we make sure we can do it? Like say they want truffle fries with rosemary. Okay, well, where do you get the truffles? Where do you get the rosemary? How, do you have it refrigerated? What's the portion size? All the details. And then you do it over and again so that you ensure that you have the best truffle fries now. And then all of a sudden, if that hits, if you're hit the mark, all of a sudden your lifelong customer portion goes up. You're multiplying the number of visits because those people come more frequently. They're spending more money with you, and you got a more profitable customer, and you fixed your business.
You don't have to spend quite so much on marketing for the same amount of revenue or more revenue. Right?
So the only thing I would say is it's all marketing, right? You would have to spend less on paid customer acquisition is I think the delineator. Because paid customer acquisition is always the most frustrating budget to model because you really don't know if that customer came in. And if they came in because they saw the Google ad or their friend Barbara told them about your fries or it was a billboard, you never really know. And anybody that tells you they do, they're lying, unless you're just totally e-commerce and it's all trackable. So
let's dive into those three areas, the well-orchestrated, well-operationalized, and well-optimized.
Look, I'm on brand.
When you say, oh, look at that. If you're not on YouTube watching this, he's drinking out of a Chick-fil-A.
Drinking out of Chick-fil-A cup.
There you go.
We're using that.
I got to get them as a sponsor of the show.
Heck
now.
yeah, me too, brother.
So when you say well-orchestrated, tell me about orchestrated. What does that mean?
So I'm going to go into something I don't usually share in the keynote, but this is, since we're chatting, I'm going to share this. It's really from the book. So I'm a musician, I'm a composer, and I have this idea for a composition of music, a symphony I want to create. So I visualize in my head. What is the ultimate outcome I want from that? Is it to be published? Is it for someone to perform it? No. I want to elicit a standing ovation. When I think of that tune or whatever in my head, I visualize the ultimate outcome is it is in this huge concert hall, and I've got all these incredible talented musicians, whatever it is, and all of a sudden, when it is done, there's that pause, and then there's this roaring yes, and people stand up, right? So if you want a standing ovation for your business, you got to orchestrate it right. So you have this idea for what the tune is. And again, I'm going to get a little I'm going to take some liberty because I don't know all of the specifics, but like a symphonic orchestra could have 66 musicians. That composer has to have a score for each of those musicians. And each individual part has to, again, alignment has to intersect to where the oboe and the cello and the flute all are doing the right thing at the right time. And not only does it have to be right on paper, they have to have the skill to play the instrument. They have to have like the finesse to make it beautiful. And they have to have like the discipline to practice it because they got to do it over and over again because they're not just going to walk on the stage one night and to a concert hall and say, here's our new symphony. So they're going to practice it. So they operationalize it. But then what they do is they optimize it where the composer comes in and is like, no, lean in a little more here, pull back here, let's pause, let's grow. That conducting. And then what happens when all that happens, it is what? It's magical. It's woo. You've won over the audience, and the only way they can respond is to stand up with the standing ovation. Now, it's funny, Mike, we're talking inside baseball here. Why the heck have I not included that in my keynote? Anyway, so.
Glad I could help.
Thanks, man. But so that's in the introduction of the book because orchestrate's a funny word. But does it make sense now? What is it going to take for you to garner yield, like make almost inventory for your customers and your team to give your brand a standing ovation? That's really what it's about.
So orchestrate and tell me where I'm wrong here, but I'm going to attempt to summarize it. Orchestrate is really around identifying, what is that outcome you're looking for? In your case, it's that standing ovation. What's the outcome you're looking for? The operationalize is, all right, if that's the outcome I want, how do I align people? How do I make sure I've got people prepared, trained up, whatever it is, I've got my processes set to go and execute to achieve that outcome. And then the optimize is that continuing kind of feedback loop of, are we doing this at the right level? How could we improve it?
Yes, and the only thing I would add is with orchestrate, it has to be grounded with your defined purpose. Like what was the composer's purpose and what were they envisioning the ultimate impact? And not just the outcome, not just the sales and profits, if you will, of the standing ovation, but and this is where it gets a little tricky, and I think I'm glad you asked this question. It has to be in line with exactly what your customer that you're serving, your audience, needs and wants. If I believe that I've got a vision for the best vegan restaurant in the world, which, sorry, that will never be my concept, but I have no offense, but I mean, I'm a carnivore. But anyway, I just lost 10% of the population of the audience. But anyway, sorry, we can all get along. But anyway, but think about it. If my vision is for a vegan restaurant and I open up a restaurant in my neighborhood and there are no vegans in the neighborhood, it doesn't matter how good the vegan restaurant is. So like, I'll be a little silly, but like if you think the greatest thing you need to do for your symphony is to do a country version of a symphony and your audience is expecting a classical version of symphony and they're not open to the new deal, as good as it was not in alignment with what your customers really wanted from you. Therefore, you can have a great product, but you don't get the standing ovation.
So you've got to
didn't know what your customer wanted.
Yeah, back to you talking about purpose. There's got to be alignment between. It's not about you. It's about alignment. Now
it
you
is
are
about,
in there
but
because,
it is about
because
you.
It's got to be
Mike,
your purpose.
Your business is about you. What you've done with your enterprise is because you said, I want to do this for the world. The deal is not everyone in the world needs what you have, but the right people do. And as long as enough people do it to where you can build the business to whatever you think is the right level, the stewardship, that kind of thing, great. But you gotta, where people miss it is they lose sight. They get so caught up in their vision, they lose sight of, okay, does someone really want this? And do enough people want this? And can I get to them fast enough? And once I get them, can I keep them? Because if you're a niche market, talk about the value of lifelong customers. If you're a niche market and only 3% of the population actually needs hypoallergenic dog beds, you better keep every customer you get so that you can sell some more hypergenic dog beds or whatever I was talking about. You know what I mean? Because you're serving such a niche market.
Yeah. And by the way, Ed, you were just you don't know this, but you were just an example of what you were talking about. For those that are listening and not watching this on YouTube, Ed was so pumped about his answer to that question that he literally like bopped around his room, like the energy that came out of you. But it's the perfect example of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's not, it is about you because you better be pumped up and excited about what you're doing, but
For
you
sure.
also better be aligned with what your customer wants. It's both.
Well,
of that.
and that's
But yeah.
honestly what just gets me so jacked to my team about all this stuff we're doing with Woo is business is a pain in the butt. Chasing customers and sales projections, all that. I mean, it is tough. So if you can get more out of the customers you have, and I mean that with pure intentions, like if you can literally serve those customers more than you could ever serve them before, it's not only good stewardship, it makes it easier. Let me give you a quick example, and this is I shared with you, I did a keynote this morning. So my question to everyone listening to this is what is your Westin Heavenly Bed? Now, what the heck am I talking about? So assuming if you travel, you've heard of the Westin hotel brand. And my guess is if you've heard of Westin, you've heard of Heavenly Bed. So the quick story is that I think it was late 90s. Westin decided they were going to do this, like spend gobs and gobs of money to determine what is it a hotel guest really wants from their hotel experience. And Mike, guess what the research told them? They want a good night's sleep. Like, duh. We're so stupid sometimes. I swear, we're so stupid. We all are. It's just like we get so distracted. We're so stupid. Okay, so anyway, back to the study. They want a good night's sleep. And guess what the number one contributor to a good night's sleep? The quality of the bed. So Westin said, we're going to reimagine, we're going to reorchestrate what the hotel bed looks like. And we're going to design the pillows, the table. I mean, it's a really incredible story. I'm going to make it a little shorter. But so they said, we're going to put white linens, a white duvet, which is like two sheets sewn together that you slide the down comforter in or whatever to make the bedspread. We're going to replace the multicolored grandmother's sofa upholstery bedspreads that were on every Holiday Inn and every hotel in the mid-East. We're going to replace it with a white linens industry. You can't do that. It shows dirt. Reason that was a problem is because they were never washing the bedspreads. Because they had the multicolored, how could you just see what's on there? And Westin, they said, you'll never be able to do it. Guess what? You orchestrate, operational, and optimize. When the linens changed to white, you knew if the housekeeper did their job. Okay, so think about it. Every hotel in the world now has white bedspreads, nearly every one. And what is it, 30, 40 years ago, they were told no. Okay, so here's the deal. If I have my numbers right, there are 33,000 hotel rooms with a Westin Heavenly Bed. There are 500,000 homes with a Westin Heavenly Bed in them. They're a hotel company that redesigned the hotel experience to give a hotel guest a customer experience by looking at their business and reorchestrating the guest experience, focusing on the bed. So well that if my math is right, let's see, 10, 12, 14, 16 times more homes now has spent $4,000 to $5,000 on a Heavenly Bed because the hotel bed gave them a better night's sleep than their own home mattress. So my question to everybody is, what's your Heavenly Bed? What is it that is part of your business, your brand, that's like, dude, the world needs this in a different way. You know what I mean? So anyway.
No, I love that. So you've got a book coming out, your first book, right?
First book, yeah.
And it's coming out. When is it? And
it's you know how it is. It's like spring, summer, 2026. That's the goal.
All right, very good. And it's called Lifelong Customers.
It's called Lifelong Customers: The Secret to Scaling Profitably.
So why did you decide to write that? And is it about exactly what we're talking about, or is the scope a little different?
It's about that. You basically it starts off. I think like basically with the conductor. It's like I don't believe anyone starts a business to be mundane, and I don't believe anyone wakes up in the morning wanting to cook cold fries for their customers. But it happens. And so my 5 core strengths, going back to the original story, my 5 core strengths are ideation, strategic, winning others over, connectedness, and positivity. And whereas I never want to be COO or VP of operations ever again, because I can do it, but that doesn't give me the energy. That's not my sweet point. One of my strengths is ideation and strategy. What is the idea that can solve a problem, and how do you actually get there? And so that's literally the mission I've been on the last 10 years. I'm like, okay, the best brands are all doing something the same. What is it? And so that's when the best brands know exactly what their customer wants distinctly. They figure out how to make it happen, and they ensure it happens over and over again. And the brands that don't do that, the only 3 reasons you disappoint a customer is you either didn't really know what they wanted, you couldn't figure out how to actually do it. Like, where do we get the truffle fries or truffle sauce or whatever, truffle flakes? And then third is, or you got it, but you don't do it over and again. So therefore you erode trust and you actually ruin the reputation and impact long time. So I was like, you know what? I don't want 1 million clients for BTY. I don't really want 1 million clients for Serve as well. We want to help companies for sure, but I wasn't looking to create a 1,000 employee. This wasn't about size of enterprise. It was about, frankly, reach of impact. And being a business leader is isolated. Getting sales is tough. And if you can have to worry about getting new customers less because you're taking care of your customers more, I believe that's like the epitome of business stewardship. And I genuinely believe I can help as many people that get to hear the story and just kind of get them to kind of like take a fresh look at what it's like to run the business.
Well, can't wait to read the book, and depending on when you're listening to this, that book may be out or not.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure it'll be a Wall Street
then,
Journal bestseller.
There you go. Ed's name will be all over. He'll be
the Joy Beast. Woo!
I got him before he was a
That's
international celebrity.
Before then.
But while we're waiting, for those of us that are waiting for the book, you've got a course on the Wonder of WOOO as well. Tell me a little bit about that and how people get access to it.
So again, we're trying to get this message together. So along with the book and the content, I've got several business partners. One includes one of my closest friend who has actually 39 years with Chick-fil-A. We're not all Chick-fil-A people, but it's pretty good pedigree relative to operations. He was former VP of operations, then his last role was VP of talent of operator selection. And staff selection, all the people side of the business. Anyway, so he is one of our business partners. We've got some folks who, like the former chief communications officer for USAA. We've got one of our WOOO coaches she was on the leadership team at the Southwest Leadership Academy and actually helped create the JetBlue industry. So we've got this collection of, we're calling them WOOO coaches, and we provide training for our clients. Well, we wanted to get that more accessible than people just bringing us in for a day or a week or whatever. And so, depending on when you're going to listen to this is we're filming this in spring of 2025. So starting on May 22nd, which is a Thursday, May 22nd, 2025, we're going to do a 5-week course, 1 hour. It's at 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central, 5 weeks. And we're actually going to walk through the entire model, go a little deeper into each of the O's. Now, I don't want to confuse things, but there are 5 O's versus 3 in the course, okay? And those 5 O's, the 2 O's are ordered and organized. You asked about the metrics. You got to have some kind of metric to compare against, and you have to figure out what the priorities of your business. So we're going to actually walk you through some additional strategy thinking to make sure that you're, like, again, alignment, that before you jump into orchestrate, operationalize, optimize, you got to make sure you're in alignment with what your business needs, what your customer needs, and what your resources can allow. Okay, so we're going to do this weekly course, like I said, 1 hour, and probably the best thing to do would be go to serveotherswell.com, serveotherswell.com, and you can register for our 5-week course.
Beautiful. And we'll put that in the show notes. But I got to tell you, Ed, you just screwed things up. I was so excited for you that you had 3 O's in WOOO. Yep. And then you've got the 3 O's orchestrated, operationalized, and optimized. And you screwed it up and you added 2 more O's.
Well, so, the reality is, but Mike, here's the discovery. It's really about winning others over and over and over and over again. And there's really, think about some brands that you've loved and adored since childhood. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to end.
All right, I'll live with the 5 O's.
Yeah.
Good save there.
Hey, but just so you know, the 3 O's are the one that's trademarked, so that's why we're staying in that lane.
Well, you got to trademark the 5 O's now too.
I guess so.
So, and other than, the training, if people want to find out, Ed, more about you and your speaking, or more about BTY, or more about the Wonder of WOOO, where should they be going?
Yeah, so a couple things. One is on wherever you listen to your podcast or YouTube, we have a show called the Wonder of WOOO podcast. We got about 40 some episodes so far. We just dig into all things about serving others well, that kind of thing. I mentioned Serve Others Well. That's our training company. I mentioned our strategy company. That's BTY. That's a company I founded 22 years ago. That domain is btycreative.com. You can learn about us there, and then you want to learn more about the wonderful world of Ed Howie, that's edhowie.com. So we got a couple of options there.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I always say if you want a great company, you need a great leadership team. Ed, thanks for helping us get there today.
Well, Mike, and what I love about that question is that in all seriousness, our whole team has worked with all kinds of corporations, both internally as consultants, as I know you have. And I love the fact that your question delineated leadership team, not leadership, because so much is said to rise and fall in the leadership. Dude, you've got it right. It rises and falls on the leadership team. It's not the leader, it's the leadership team. And that alignment has to happen in your marketing, it has to happen in your operations, it has to happen in your sales, and it has to be aligned with your customer. Because, I mean, think about how many businesses you've seen, they're heading this way, and if they're like, and let's just say they're like peak performers, but the problem is the customer's over, where's the camera? The customer's over here and they're heading this way, right? Gotta have that alignment with everybody.
As the leadership team goes, so goes the rest of the company. Ed, thanks so much for doing this today. This is great.
Mike, awesome, man.